But I'd like to hear from you what kind of circus has been going on in Wisconsin leading up to this.
Well, let's just say we gave the Daily Show a lot of material. It was pretty surreal. Look, the thing to understand about all this is that long before Elon Musk came along, probably before he came to the United States, the state of Wisconsin has had pretty rockin' Supreme Court races. That's because Wisconsin's a battleground state. We're almost evenly divided. We literally send Ron Johnson, who is one of the most absurd members of the U.S. Senate, a Republican who actually lives in Florida, to Washington. And we send Tammy Baldwin, who's a quite progressive member of the Senate, to Washington. We, go back and forth in presidential elections between Biden and Trump and Obama and Trump and blah, blah, blah. So when you add it all up, we're a closely divided state. We also have a governor that's usually a Democrat, currently at least, and we have a legislature that's gerrymandered for the Republicans. What that means is that at the end of the day, somebody has to sort it out, between all these divisions, and it's the court. So as a result, both sides of the political aisle, both sides of the ideological aisle have fought for this court for years, going back, into the early to mid 2000s, really brutal battles. And some of them, characterized by horrific racism, some of them characterized by sexism, by, they've been bad and they've been ugly. But this year we beat it all, right? We knocked it all out of the park. Because it was an open seat that would literally decide control of the court. If the progressive candidate, a woman named Susan Crawford, who's a former prosecutor, lawyer for Planned Parenthood and labor unions, a Dane County judge, if she got elected, the court would retain a 4-3 progressive majority. If her opponent, Brad Schimmel, a former Republican attorney general who literally worked with Walker, he literally worked with Scott Walker at the worst of Scott Walker. If he got elected, the court would become a 4-3 right-wing judicial activist court. Simple as that. It was always going to be an expensive race. It was always going to be brutal, intense. But Elon Musk decided in January, right around the time he filed a lawsuit trying to overturn Wisconsin's law as regards how cars are sold, decided he was very, very interested in Wisconsin. And started moving $1 million in, couple million, tens of millions. As best we can tell, he got to around 25, 26 million, but we haven't counted it all. And that blew the race up to a $100 million race for the state Supreme Court for a job, one of 7 justices on the court. And in the end, it was a bizarre thing because in a race for a court that deals with issues like abortion rights, labor rights, voting rights, the issue in the last 120 hours, maybe even the last week, was Elon Musk. And this was a guy who flew in a black T-shirt, put on a polyurethane cheese head, and danced around the stage in Green Bay, right? Speaking to us all with a South African accent and the whole bit. And at the end of the day, all I can tell you is that, of course, Musk is the richest man in the world, so he could afford the plane ticket. But if he had been unable to afford the plane ticket, I think progressive forces in Wisconsin would have paid for his ticket to bring him in because he was so destructive to the chances of the conservatives. He sort of exposed them for what they were. The general feeling was that Crawford was probably going to win by a couple points in a really tight, really intense race. As it happened, she won by 200,000 votes, 55-45. She actually got when I think it's the highest vote ever for a Supreme Court justice, or certainly in an off-year competitive race like this. It was just epic. The turnout was huge, almost gubernatorial level. Crawford improved percentage-wise on Kamala Harris's percent of the vote in all 72 of Wisconsin's counties. She bumped up, she did better in every region, in every, rural, suburban, urban, blah, blah, blah. So I think the lesson we take away from this is Wisconsin is a marginally progressive state. right? And I won't lie to you and tell you we're all the way where we should be, but we're a marginally progressive state, which on Tuesday, Elon Musk made very progressive.
Well, the thing that I think also has to be addressed is the fact that this was pretty clear cut between the two candidates.
Oh, yeah.
One is pro-choice and the other is anti-choice, as Jen likes to say.
Viscerally, I just say viscerally anti-choice. Like, he came out of Waukesha County, where the local politics for decades has been defined by that issue. You could not be a pro-choice candidate in Waukesha County. So Brad Schimmel was somebody who wasn't just, kind of like a wink and nod to the anti-choice community. He was a
true believer. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And as a result, I said at the top, and I'll say it again, Musk could have spent $100 million and it wouldn't have made a difference. This was as clear cut as it gets. People knew exactly how they wanted to vote going in. And then I think because of the fact that I've always said Trump accelerates the shift in our country because everything's in everybody's faces now and they don't like it. So as a result, there was a substantial FU vote against Elon Musk, which happened to fall on this guy's lap as well, as far as we can see.
I think you're pretty right about that. I think that Musk helped to run the total for Crawford, the progressive candidate, up. I think she won by more than she might have won by. But as I said, I think, as you're saying as well, I think she would have won. I think there's another factor here that's pretty fascinating. In last fall in Wisconsin, Trump won very narrowly. And there was some depression of the Democratic vote in Wisconsin, right? In the campus areas, turnout was not as robust as it should have been. I think some of that may have tied to Gaza and to some other issues. Also, there were inroads that the Trump people made last fall among some young, especially men, voters, right? And so there are factors in there that kind of, threw the traditional calculus off in Wisconsin, right? Moved it a little bit to the right. In this moment, 6 months after the previous election, less than that, I think with the clarity of the moment, you saw like a lot of people kind of come back into saying, okay, I've got a sense of what the good vote is, what the bad vote is. It made things, and I've always said they should have had some understanding of that. Some of these folks last fall, I'm not, diminishing the clarity of the choice then. But what I'm saying is I was on the campus 10 minutes before the polls closed, and I saw students running to the polling place to vote, right? They had finished a class. They were running up because they didn't want to miss the chance to vote in this election. And many of them were wearing stickers that said, "I'm choosing Susan," for Susan Crawford. Those were stickers done by pro-choice groups, as in choosing choice Susan.
Sure.
And so spot on for your point, and I just think there was a clarity there. I think the one other thing that's really fascinating is, I mean, I'm not going to tell you that a lot of hardcore Trump voters were moved. I don't think that was the case. But I do think two factors are interesting. One, some marginal Trump voters, I think, actually have begun to move because of Medicare, Social Security, Medicaid, those issues. I've been at town meetings around the state. I've seen some evidence of people, who were either surely or probably Trump backers who are now very concerned. And then one final factor, which I know you two will appreciate because you're such good political analysts. There's a bunch of people who will only go vote for Trump.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They won't do anything else. No matter how hard Elon Musk tries, they're not going to come out and vote for Brad Schimmel.
No. They like Trump is a unique thing. He's his own entity. There's no Trump-like. That doesn't exist. And I've said it about him before, and he's the most honest liar that I can ever imagine. And I actually do appreciate it a lot of the time, When he says we're in Syria for the oil, I'm appreciative of that. Thank you. You're not telling me that you're there for the people's liberty. We don't care about saving democracy. We're not. No. We're there for the oil.
Yeah.
And I think that he is not something that can be duplicated. And at the end of the day, Musk is just such a douche canoe. He really is. Like, he's so unlikable. His own kids don't seem to like him. Like, I don't know.
But you can't possibly have interviewed all of his children.
Yes.
But,
That's true.
But so we don't know.